Nature. Nature is beautiful. Nature is all around us. Many ancient civilizations have cared for nature to please the gods they worshipped. When the world is threatened to be plunged into darkness, a goddess shall emerge to save the world from evil and make nature bloom once again. Welcome to Rendered Art. Today's art, Okami. In many ancient civilizations, humans told myths and legends about gods that formed the earth. Japan was no exception, as the Shinto religion created a pantheon of deities that are worshipped in Shintoism. The tale of these Japanese myths began with Izanagi and his wife, Izanami, giving birth to the islands and gods of Japan. After Izanami died, giving birth to the fire god Kagutsuchi, Izanagi tried to resurrect her by visiting her in Yomi, also known as the underworld, and taking her back with him. Izanami's one instruction to Izanagi was to not look upon her. However, Izanagi lit a flame and saw the horrifying image of Izanami's rotting flesh on her decaying body. This incurred Izanami's wrath, and Izanagi fled the underworld. When Izanagi returned home, he decided to cleanse himself after being in Yomi for so long. When he washed himself, 3 more gods came from the water that dripped from the parts of his face. These gods being the mood god Tsukiyomi, the storm god Susanoo, and the sun goddess Amaterasu. These 3 gods are the most recognized in Japanese mythology, with Amaterasu being the highest revered among her fellow deities. One well-known legend is the tale of when Amaterasu's brother, Susanoo, was banished from heaven when he went on a rampage that caused destruction on an earthly and heavenly plane. Amaterasu was so distraught by her brother's actions, she hid herself in the heavenly rock cave, plunging the earth into darkness. She was eventually led out of the cave with the help of the other gods, and light was brought back to the land, but she and her brother's relationship was still fractured. Susanoo, now banished from heaven, descended into the earthly realm. There he found an elderly couple that had sacrificed 7 of their 8 daughters to the 8-headed serpent Orochi, and that the time had come to sacrifice their 8th daughter, Kushinada-hime. Susanoo decided to save the last daughter by slaying the dreaded beast, as he had a plan to lure out Orochi by offering a tub of sake to each of the 8 heads before he feasted on Kushinada-hime. When Orochi passed out from drinking the entirety of the sake, Susanoo cut all of his heads off while he was asleep, and found a sword when he cut open Orochi's body. He offered this sword to Amaterasu, repairing their relationship. Mythologies from different cultures are recognized by how they are portrayed in signature art styles, from marble statues depicting the various Greek gods and goddesses, to ancient hieroglyphics preserving the mythical legends of Egypt. Japan's most iconic style that portrayed these stories of the Shinto deities is known as ukiyo-e, a style that was very prominent between the 17th and 19th centuries. They were usually painted with a technique called mokuhanga, a woodblock painting technique in which a drawing would be carved on a wood block, painted, and be pressed onto paper. Due to its prominence, this style is how the Western world would perceive Japanese art, and would influence some of the art design of 19th century Europe, which is called Japanism. As historical art forms are being preserved for the future generations to be examined and studied, some modern media will take inspiration from these ancient forms of expression. Ukiyo-e has been commonly depicted in Japanese media such as manga, anime, and video games. One of these video games would completely envelop its identity in both the ukiyo-e style and the Shinto beliefs. Okami was first conceived when developer Clover Studio threw around several ideas for a game surrounding nature and trying to form a solid concept out of them. A demonstration created by the game's director Hideki Kamiya showed a wolf running through a forest with flowers blooming from the trail it leaves behind. This was the starting concept that was still without a gameplay idea. After spreading several ideas around, the team decided on a Zelda-inspired adventure game about restoring a cursed land back to its once beautiful state. The most unique gameplay mechanic present in the game is the use of a giant brush that the player controls called the Celestial Brush. The idea was to have the player participate in making the beautiful art of restoration, rather than just watching. Okami was originally intended to have the graphics rendered in a photorealistic style. However, Clover Studio decided on a style that not only the hardware on the PS2 could handle, but would also rather reflect the protagonist Amaterasu's connection to the beauty of nature and restoring it from being dark and lifeless. One of the inspirations that Hideki Kamiya had for Okami was both his appreciation for nature and, surprisingly, the remake of Resident Evil on the GameCube. Kamiya was very impressed with how realistic the game looked at the time, and wanted to use the technology that Capcom had to make a beautiful, lifelike world that would make an impression on the player. Okami was released by Capcom for the PlayStation 2 on April 20th, 2006 in Japan, and September 19th of the same year in America. Even though it sold poorly, only selling around 200,000 copies in the US, Okami would be considered a cult classic, and a game that would be an amazing example for games as art. Let's dive into the game and see what this art beholds. The beginning of the game has Amaterasu being awoken from a statue by Sayaka, the wood sprite in Kamiki Village. Just like the other areas later in the game, Kamiki Village is cursed into a state of darkness, with everyone turned into statues. Amaterasu enters the cave under the giant sakura tree to find the River of Heavens, a beautiful, glistening river that leads Amaterasu to the sky that has an unfinished constellation. Finishing this constellation with your brush gives you the ability of rejuvenation. You then follow the path to the Cave of Nagi, which leads to this magnificent statue of Nagi himself. When you restore the sword, you finish another constellation which gives you the ability to slash objects. The opening section of the game sets the tone for how the game's environments will be colorful and varied. The game takes place in a fictionalized version of Japan known as Nipon. Nipon has many areas that house different wonders and dangers that bring the charm to this vast land. Open areas such as Shinshu Field and Ryoshima Coast show off spacious environments that are waiting to be explored and have enemies that are itching for a good fight. The villages in the game are usually safe places for Amaterasu to interact with the various villagers that have varying personalities. From the small hamlets of Kamiki Village, to the bustling capital that is Seion City, or the secluded mountain range of Wepker, villages have their own unique charm that sets them apart. Not every area in this game is peaceful, however, especially when evil is abundantly across the land. Amaterasu's worst foes will be hiding in their strongholds that are the dungeons in the game. These dungeons have a wondrous interior while setting an ominous tone that challenges you to purify this den of evil. From the overgrown Suda ruins to the degrading insides of the sunken ship, these dungeons set the tone for the boss that awaits you at the end. All the environments wouldn't stand out as much if there weren't a diverse cast of friends and foes to engage you along the way. Our protagonist, Amaterasu, Ami for short, is the Japanese goddess of the sun. She's based on the same sun goddess from Shinto mythology. The reason she's portrayed as a wolf in this game is due to the game's title. The word Okami means wolf in this kanji, but these kanjis, which mean great deity, are pronounced identically. Since Ami is a wolf, she acts like a normal canine, doing whatever she wants and oblivious to human affairs. Although she is able to understand human language and may be able to understand emotions, she doesn't speak, despite the other animal gods having the ability to do so, making her a silent protagonist with more personality than most other silent protagonists in video games. Ami's bright markings and divine instruments on her back, which normal humans cannot see, contrast with her white fur to give her a glowing appearance. She invokes both a warm and comforting atmosphere while being an omnipotent force of nature. One of her abilities that makes her powerful is the Celestial Brush, a tool which has many uses. These include restoring broken objects and structures, slashing things in two, conjuring bombs, and bringing out both the sun and the moon. These brush techniques are acquired by finding constellations to awaken other gods, which are also portrayed as animals. These gods were made for the game and aren't based on any specific deities, but are instead based on the 12 animals of the Chinese zodiac. Plus the cat, which is mentioned in the Tales of the Zodiac. They each have their own unique identities, and each see Ami as their superior, due to them being a part of her great power. One individual who is amazed and envious of this power is a tiny bug person named Eason. Since Ami cannot speak, Eason acts as a mouthpiece for various folks the pair meets along the way. While he is foul-mouthed and overconfident, with his own selfish desires to help Ami along her journey to restore her full power and destroy evil, he does enjoy the adventure he partakes with Ami, developing an inseparable bond with her. His species is known as Ponkles, which are tiny sprite creatures that each have bug helmets. Eason is usually seen as a silhouette throughout the majority of the game, with his full appearance being shown when Ami shrinks to Eason's size. He's a companion that, while only taking up a minuscule amount of pixels on the screen, makes a very big impact by his love for beautiful women and his desire to become the greatest artist in all of Nipon. Ami and Eason meet many unique individuals along their journey, from humble villagers to eccentric travelers and beautiful women for Eason to fawn over. One of these characters is a man named Susanoo, a descendant of the warrior of Nagi who slayed the dreaded Orochi with the help of Shiranui to save his beloved Nami. Susanoo is a man who puts on a brave face to seem like a courageous and powerful warrior, but in reality he is cowardly, lazy, and curses the gods that he is the descendant of a great hero. It was in fact his fault that Orochi was resurrected due to him removing Nagi's sword from the moon cave that sealed Orochi away. When Kamiki Village's sake brewer Kushi is chosen to be sacrificed to Orochi, Susanoo gains the courage to help Ami slay Orochi, rescue Kushi, and bring Nipon closer to a peaceful state. There are many other players in Okami, such as the luminous and beautiful Sakia, who is responsible for awakening Amaterasu when Orochi returns. She is a tree spirit that resides in Konohana Tree in Kamiki Village, and is in a weakened state until Amaterasu reblooms all the sakura trees in Kamiki that restores her full power. One interesting feature is that her breasts look like a peach, due to sakura petals looking similar to peaches in the game's art style. Despite not appearing much in the game, she is the catalyst of Amaterasu's quest, and a great example of minor characters with major influence. One last character that needs to be mentioned is a character named Waka. Waka is a self-proclaimed prophet that runs into Ami multiple times throughout the game, and despite not being an antagonist, is fought as a boss to test Ami's skills. He is both the guardian of the Moon Cave and leader of the Tau Troopers, which are a special army for Queen Himiko. Waka's presence in the Taus implies that he is not from this place, but you'd have to experience the story for yourself if you want to know more about Waka and the many other characters along the way. While there are many allies on your journey for peace, there are also enemies that will oppose you. Enemies in the open areas are encountered in the form of evil scrolls that float above the ground. They lunge at Ami when she gets too close, and are grouped into categories to make various enemy types off a handful of models. These groups include imps, mischievous and malicious demons, guardians which resemble Buddhist statues, but are anything but peaceful, dead fish, tengu, chimeras, and many other bizarre and dangerous foes that dare to challenge a god. Each demon has various elements and techniques that must be overcome to slash, burn, or bomb them to pieces. There are a good number of bosses in Okami, and they are just as, or even more unique and bizarre, as their underlings. The first boss in the game is a walking terror known as the Spider Queen, who is found deep in Suda ruins. Her look is inspired by Sadako from The Ring, but mutated into a giant spider, and due to her being an environmental hazard, must be eliminated. Some bosses such as Crimson Helm, a centaur-like creature that has fire as his element, serve a much greater antagonist. There are 3 of these antagonists for each story arc. The first one is Orochi, the 8-headed serpent who terrorizes Kamiki village and threatens to destroy the world. Each individual head must be intoxicated with sake to do damage to the center, which is the giant bell. Each of his heads have a different element and can be countered by different brush techniques. Defeating the dreaded serpent is only the first step to world peace, as the other 2 antagonists must be defeated, but these 2 are the ones that you will have to play to see for yourself. The main theme that Okami makes abundantly clear is that evil will destroy and corrupt anything that is good and pure, such as nature, and that it should be protected. Amaterasu is that protector, a deity that steps in when it seems that all is lost. Ami receives praise when she helps people or restores nature. Many cultures and religions have prayed to the gods for good things to happen in their life, and to also seek forgiveness if they know that they have committed transgressions against them. It is also believed that gods receive their power from the praise that is received when prayers are answered. Ami gains more power from the praise she gets. She needs the people's faith to help her gain more power to purify the world. Many people in the world have expressed that the natural environment is important to the Earth's survival, and that it should be protected, or humanity as we know it could cease to exist. As Ami tries to save humanity, many other characters have their own personal trials. Eason wants to prove himself as the greatest artist in Nipon, and tries to learn from Ami's brush techniques to improve his craft. He ran away from his village and stole a painting from his grandfather and claimed it was his when he showed it. Some people want to validate themselves through any means necessary, and Eason has a conviction that he stubbornly sticks to. Even though he might be far from what he wants to achieve, he may one day achieve it through experience and temperament. Susanoo's story arc makes him realize his potential as a great swordsman and a worthy successor to the great warrior Nagi. His initial behavior was being dismissive of the legends of his ancestors, and was responsible for Orochi's resurrection because of his carelessness. When he journeys to several areas to try and improve his swordsmanship, he thinks he is cursed by the gods to continue Nagi's legacy, and hides away to escape his fate. He soon learns to fully embrace his legacy when he must save Kushi from Orochi with the help of Ami. Some people never realize their potential if there are many obstacles in the way. Success results in climbing a large mountain, and that we should not be intimidated by the size if we want to reach the end. Susanoo finally climbs that mountain, or in this case, slays the monster in the cave to rescue his beloved. It takes a lot to save the world, and Amaterasu will use all of her abilities to make sure that the sun will shine forever, and will inspire many people to bring out the full content of their character. So in a way, Okami is a game with a message that we should prove ourselves and do good for the world. Okami is a beloved game for its story, artwork, and cast of characters. While it may be on the easy side when it comes to combat and completion, the world and atmospheres will remain in gamers' hearts and minds for a long time. Personally, as my favorite game, it should be experienced at least once in this mortal life. Okami is rendered art. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. This is the first type of video I've done of anything like this, and I just want to say that it took a while to make, and I put a lot of hard work and effort into it. I'm still need to improve in some areas, but with more episodes that are coming out, I hope I can do that. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay tuned for what that will be.